8 months ago, I decided I wanted to redo this layout. I spent a couple of months planning, and then 6 months ago, I started this brand new build. So before I get into this month's update, I thought I would take a few moments to look back and see what has been accomplished in the last 183 days. I tore out the original layout and got all of the walls prepped. I painted them a basic sky blue and moved away from the idea of a detailed background. I did manage to salvage all of the bridges and buildings, but scrapped everything else. I designed and built a scale model of the layout so I could get an idea of the proportions and the track work. It served as the ground truth for everything I did from that point forward. I decided to build far more robust benchwork using 3/4 inch good one side plywood, configured in an L girder formation, modular, solid, and open grid. And this time around, I decided to use Pico Code 80 switches in combination with Pico Code 55 FlexTrack. On the last layout, I had infrared block detectors and Arduino controlled turnouts. And this time around, I'm going full analog. No block detection, no automation. In a period of about 6 weeks, I installed all of the roadbed and track work, and it took about the same amount of time to install all of the wiring. I added a far more robust wiring system. Bus wires for every length of track, feeders every 3 feet. The layout is wired for DCC, but I am currently running it as a 2-block system in DC. I installed all of the foam elevations and organic scenery details, as well as building retaining walls for the Union Station area. I decided to design and build a pair of custom handheld throttles, painted to match this fictional railroad. I finalized the structural footprint of Union Station, started to install retaining walls in the Hamilton district. So that is a brief look at how we got to here. And so for this update, I want to talk about the things that I've done in the last 30 days. So I was having a bit of trouble with the symmetry of the Union Station area. I had my 6 basic passenger platforms in the middle, and I had added this portal for 2 maintenance tracks, which meant that there was nothing over here. So I opened up the wall and I added 1 more passenger platform. And I decided that I would treat this as a separate or independent corridor outside of the overall terminus. This new platform draws from multiple real-world precedents. Pacific Central Station in Vancouver serves as the main terminus for both Via Rail's Canadian as well as the Amtrak Cascades. While Via uses the main concourse, Amtrak arrives at a fenced-off peripheral platform, designated for border control and customs processing. Move back to Toronto, and the UP Express has its own dedicated terminus. It's not connected to the Union Station concourse, but instead it runs through a modern independent zone with self-check-in and its own infrastructure. And one adjacent detail I wanted to add was from GO Transit's exhibition stop. Up until very recently, there was a small standalone ticket booth located under the Gardiner Expressway. It was a minor structure, and now that the structure is completely gone, I would like to include it as a small Easter egg on the layout. So I am very seriously trying to design and install a very, very primitive signaling system. This would be a series of manually controlled dwarf signals that indicate the turnout position. So no detection, no block occupancy, just colored lights. And I want to introduce them as a way to help make the layout feel like you're operating it, less than being automated. I have started playing with some ideas. I've been playing with different LED sizes and seeing if there's a trade-off between a result that, even though it might be oversized, still has the look and feel of a signal system. It's not meant to be automated. It's meant to be 100% efficient, as well as aesthetic. So I decided to go visit the Burlington Monorail Road club layout. I paid it a visit last year. Had a great time. And one of the things that they had included in the layout was an elevated passenger platform. So I went back this year. I wanted to get a second look at this platform, and I wanted to see if I could get some ideas for how I'm going to develop my Union Station. Well, it turned out it was gone. They'd updated the area, they added some intermodal stuff, and that stuff looked great. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any further details about how they handled the design challenges of elevating a station above some passenger tracks. Great visit, had a great time, no downside. I enjoyed looking at the trains running. So after that was done, I decided to take a little walk around the area. Outside of the building, there is a narrow road that passes under a rail bridge. So this is a bridge that I recognize from the highway, but I've never spent any time actually underneath it looking at the details. And I've been trying to work on a design for the piers to support my Bathurst Bridge, located right here. And I want to do a mix of concrete and steel, and this bridge had every single one of those details. Having seen a prototype that I can use as a real-world example, I'm really confident that I'm now going to be able to build the piers that I want. And I'm still trying to decide if the piers that I use for the Bathurst Bridge will make their way over into the Hamilton area. So I am in the final stages of securing the perimeter of the layout, and that is the installation of the fascia boards. Fascia was not something that I ever got to install on the last layout, and it bothered me since day one. It's one of those details that I want to have in place, and I want to have in place early. It does a good job of framing the layout, and it lets me understand where the boundaries are, and it makes it feel more finished. So the first thing I needed to do was add some nailers to the end of the joists. All of the nailers were screwed and glued into place. And the length of those nailers was exactly the depth that I wanted on the fascia. I cut masonite strips that were 16 inches wide and 8 feet long, and then clamped them to those nailers so that I could create the curves around the ends of the layout. I traced the contours of the landscape onto the masonite, removed it, used a jigsaw to cut the profile, and then reinstalled it with glue using clamps and some temporary screws to hold everything in place. The Union Station area has a portal to view into the hidden passenger stations. And so using a hole saw and some hand tools, I managed to cut a viewing portal into the side of the fascia. The top edge of that viewing portal was only a few inches high, and it snapped as soon as I finished the cutting process. So I had to reinforce it with a second strip of masonite and glued it in place. The finished fascia means now that the top platform can be set in place, and there's now this great viewing portal to see the trains arrive, as well as the trains on the lower level go around the ends of the platforms. Once the glue in the fascia was completely dry, I backed out all of the screws and then went around with some drywall compound to fill any of the screw holes, as well as the joints in between the individual panels. So yeah, 183 days. I've lost track of time. I've made a lot of progress on this project, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I've legitimately been having a ton of fun. So what's next? Well, I think I'm going to start bouncing around the layout and looking at things like scenery, sort of civil structures in terms of how I'm designing roads and bridges. I really want to get the fascia finished, and so right now I'm having some discussions with some people about what color to paint it. I've collected lots of things to decorate the fascia with. Right now I'm leaning towards trying to create something that feels like a forgotten Cold War Soviet era machine. So things are moving forward. Thank you very much for tuning in and joining me on the journey, and I'll see you next time.